All right, so the next topic we're going to talk about here is kind of giving a little bit of history as to why we think nutrition information is so confusing. I mean, if you type in best diet, you're going to get a billion results on Google, and it's going to be really confusing because you have some people saying, hey, it's this, other people saying, hey, it's that. In reality, life is very rarely black and white when it comes to the science. And so there's kind of some nuance and some gray area in between, and that's where we tend to live in reality. And so the first thing is that it's challenging. We started nutritional research coming from a lens of, scarcity. So we're having nutritional deficiencies because we weren't eating X, Y, or Z. And so we actually didn't have enough. We were lacking in a lot of capabilities. And so what we essentially did was we found, okay, it looks like this missing nutrient causes this disease, so we should supplement there. So we really focused on like one nutrient, one macronutrient, something like that. And that was like how nutritional research really started. And it made some incredible advances, and it made, in our Western society, we weren't having people, having issues from nutritional deficiencies very often. But what that does, it kind of focuses in on single problems, like this nutrient, this macronutrient, this is the problem. This vitamin, this mineral, what have you, this is the problem. It kind of gave us this granular approach of like, this is where we're going. And as we've kind of moved over the years from an idea of scarcity to kind of now we have abundance, and that's our main issue, the general approach of just focusing on one thing or one nutrient doesn't seem to be correlating with what we're seeing today. Obviously, there's lots of factors to why nutrition has changed in terms of policy, recommendations, all that. But we kind of, if you think about it, going from a scarcity mindset to now we have an abundance, we need to adjust how we frame nutritional research through that too, and it's really challenging. Another reason it's so confusing is it's really, really hard to do good nutritional research. And I have so much respect for everyone who's out there doing that, but it's just so challenging. It's so challenging because, if we're doing, say, a pharmaceutical study, right? You can give someone a placebo pill and another person the experimental pill, and you can see the difference. Here, it's really hard to give someone placebo, food. I guess you could give people like odorless, colorless pastes, maybe. I don't know. It'd be challenging. Either way, you would know what you're doing. And let's say even if you get a perfect world where you can completely control their food, how long can you really run that for? Maybe a couple of days, couple of weeks, maybe a month. I mean, that's a long time. But eventually people leave those controlled environments, go back to their home, and that's where we tend to see issues. But it's so hard to do really good controlled nutritional interventions because the time frame is also super long. It's not like, hey, let's eat here, and then we're going to check in a couple weeks and see what's going on. I mean, it usually takes months and years to see changes from nutritional changes. So it's really challenging. And a lot of our information that we do get is from epidemiologic studies. So epidemiologic means we're kind of looking at a big data, big amount of data, and looking to try to find trends. And obviously from that data, we can't find causative, conclusions. We can't say, hey, this definitively caused that. We can see associations, which are incredibly helpful. But typically nutrition has lots of epidemiologic studies looking at large things. And a lot of times what we'll find is it's really hard to control for all those variables. Like let's say, for an example, a common theme we see is that vegetarian diets, people tend to have better outcomes on those. And could it be the diet? It absolutely could be. I mean, there's lots of health improving and health promoting things that are inside a vegetarian diet. But the question is, do those people who eat a vegetarian diet, do they exercise more? They probably smoke less. They probably move more. They probably, take care of themselves more, or kind of really health conscious. So it's kind of these conflicting things, and it's difficult to understand and pull from that. Was it the diet that did the change, or was that lifestyle, or that person who cares about that healthy lifestyle? And so that's really challenging. And so that's just one thing I want to mention as well. And then the third thing is, this stuff's really tricky, in terms of, we think of calories, and everyone talks about like calories in, calories out. Like that's everything. Like if you just eat fewer calories, you're going to lose weight. And you're right. I mean, the math doesn't lie. And if you take in fewer calories, then you burn out, you're going to lose weight. It's that simple, right? Well, yes and no. Yes, from a mathematical standpoint, but no, from a biological, hormonal, psychological standpoint, it's really tricky. We used to think that, fat wasn't metabolically active. Now we know that it does. We know that obesity can lead to a whole milieu of hormonal and psychological changes that make it very difficult to, decrease our eating or caloric consumption. So it's just a lot trickier than we thought it was. And so that just adds another layer of complexity. So not only is it tough to do the research, it's tough to kind of change what's going on in our body. And our understanding is changing constantly too. So long story short, research is really tough to do here. It's a really complex subject. So of course it's going to be confusing to talk about this topic.